Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle. That seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to your tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing seems to be working. In fact, it feels like the scale is moving in the opposite direction despite all your efforts. But we know now that your body is inherently different than when it was to you prior to having these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today I want to cover the topic of alcohol. It is summertime, it is beautiful outside, and that means it's patio season. And there is nothing that I actually really enjoy more when I'm out on the weekend with friends or we're out in the evening on the patio, having a mojito or a sangria. Like, those are my two go-tos and they are so delicious. This episode isn't to tell you not to drink, because that would be unrealistic. That'd be very hypocritical of me. But I do want to discuss the ways that alcohol can negatively impact us, and point out that it does have a place in our lives. It's okay to drink, right? But you need to understand how it affects your body. What does that mean for your ability to lose weight and your goals and your hormones? There's a lot of things that you really need to understand. So what I'm here to do today is just really inform you about what alcohol does in our bodies, because I think we all know it's not good for us, right? We all know this, but really understanding why. Because I think once you have all the information, then you can make the choices that are best for you. And if you choose to continue drinking, that is fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But then you can make decisions and then take responsibility for the consequences that might come with it, or the stalling and results, things like that are really important to understand. So first, I want to start with some of the common factors that can lead to weight gain when we're drinking, which can also be part of the reason why a lot of us are struggling to lose weight, right? I talk to women all the time who, only have a few drinks a week, and we find out it's 5 drinks a week, right? So you're having a glass of wine almost every day. And just I want to touch on how this can be impacting you, and then have some menopause specifics for you as well, so that you really understand everything. So the first thing to note is the calories, right? Alcohol is high in calories. 1 gram of alcohol has 7 calories in it, whereas protein and fat have 4 calories per 1 gram. Protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9 calories per gram. Alcohol has 7. And these are empty calories, because the calories we consume from protein and from carbs and from fat provide us with nutritional needs, right? Nutrients that our body can actually use to put on muscle mass, to help with hormone production. Alcohol provides no nutritional value. Okay, these are what we call empty calories. Okay, so some examples of the caloric load of some common alcohols that might be interesting for you. So vodka can be 97 to 116 calories just on its own. We're not looking at, the stuff you're mixing it with. We have tequila, which is 96 to 104 calories. Rum, 97 to about 116 calories. A light beer is typically around 100 calories. An IPA, it can be 170 to 350 calories. Red wine is 122, white wine's about 130, and then liqueurs are 157 to 186. So that's a lot, right? When we think about what other food choices we can be making that have those calories, that's a lot of fruit. That's a lot of veggies, there's a lot of things that we can have that actually provide us with nutrition for those same amount of calories. And many times people consume their liquor in mixed drinks, right? Which are loaded with sugars. I myself do not drink very often. It is very rare you will see me having them a lot. It'll be like a special occasion out with friends on a patio or something like that, right? Because for me to enjoy alcohol, it's got to be sweet. It's got to be sugary. And I think we all know that that's probably not super great for our waistlines, our metabolism, and things like that. So those added sugars in their own can definitely wreak havoc on our bodies, specifically our gastrointestinal systems, actually, which we're going to learn more in a little bit here that I'll touch on. And oftentimes alcohol is an additional caloric load on top of one's weekly or daily caloric needs, right? Like we're not necessarily tracking what we're drinking most of the time. And that can lead to a lot of excess calories in the summertime that you normally wouldn't have. Okay. And then also think about when you're drinking alcohol, it's usually paired or leads to some snacking, some overeating, some appetizers, and your guard is kind of down, right? And then someone like offers you pizza or chips or, those kinds of things. And you're more likely to say yes, even if you're not actually hungry, right? So for example, at my wedding, Coach Hannah, we had done like a live on this topic in our Facebook group quite a while back. And it was after I'd gotten married, and she's like, yeah, at 11 p.m. somebody brought out like hot dogs. We had hot dogs at our wedding. And even though people aren't hungry, they were eating the hot dogs, right? And that's probably not a choice you'd naturally usually make. That's not usually a time that you would eat, right? You wouldn't think, oh, I really want a hot dog right now. So it is going to influence your food choices that you make too. And then we talk about the day after. Especially in perimenopause and menopause, we find that we get hung over a lot easier. We don't feel as good the next day. And like, this is something that happens as our metabolism changes and our hormones change. Even just having that headache from the night before, right? How motivated are you really to move your body the next day? I always say that I just want to be horizontal. If I have like 2 drinks the next day, it's really hard for me to want to do anything. You don't want to move around. You don't really feel like having a salad or cooking up some nutritious meals. Typically, you're going to order some takeout or go out to eat for brunch, right? So not only does alcohol impact us when we're in the moment and we are drinking, but it can carry over for multiple days and even beyond that quote unquote hangover state, right? Which I'm going to talk about some more things here in a little bit. But we often talk about as coaches in our coaching program with clients how motivation is not the reason you do or do not achieve your goals, but sometimes, a little Sunday morning motivation to get your day on is really helpful. And that's always going to be lacking when we're hungover or we haven't had a good night's sleep. And when we haven't had a good night's sleep because we were up later or we've had some alcohol that leads to like poor sleep quality, we find our cravings are going to be higher the next day. So you can see how having alcohol can actually really make it harder to stick to your routines and your goals, even when you've been working so hard for them to be consistent habits, if that kind of makes sense. So that's kind of like the mindset-y in the moment stuff. But I really want to talk about the physiological reasons, the sciencey things going inside your body, because you guys know that I love talking about this stuff. So essentially, alcohol is a neurotoxin. Our body perceives it to be a poison. That's how our body treats it, is as if it's a poison. So what does that mean? The body, first and foremost, no matter what, if you are drinking, wants to burn off the energy and those empty calories from the alcohol after it's been consumed. That is number one priority, is get it out. Okay, this means your body's not working on burning fat. It's not working on hormone production and things like that. Its number one focus is to remove the alcohol from your body. Okay, so this means that the excess sugars and fats that are not being burned from the consumption of alcohol, that's taking over. So that stuff's going to end up being stored as fat because our body's not focused on breaking that down. It's focused on getting the alcohol out. Okay, so generally your body can metabolize 1 standard drink of alcohol per hour. That's kind of the rate at which it's able to get rid of the alcohol from your system. So how long does it take to burn off alcohol is a lot more with how much you have to drink than anything else. So let's talk about the digestion process of alcohol. 20% of alcohol is going to be absorbed in your stomach. 80% is absorbed in your small intestine. So when alcohol travels into our bloodstream, where it is rapidly transported all over our body, it can pass through all cells, like every single cell in our body, because alcohol is both water soluble and fat soluble. So that means it affects literally every cell in our body. So eventually, alcohol will make it to our liver, where it is processed and broken down. So one standard drink per hour, which most of us, we'll have an extra shot, or there'll be an extra alcohol, or we'll get a really big beer. One standard drink per alcohol allows your liver to do this efficiently. It can get rid of it in 1 hour. More drinks than this leads to your system's oversaturation of alcohol. Okay, it starts to build up in other tissues and rotate in our blood, circulate in our blood until it is actually able to get out from the liver. So to put it short, the more that you drink, the longer the alcohol is in your system, because it just keeps sitting there waiting for your body to be able to get rid of it. So this is why we said these hangovers can really be taxing on our body, because it's such a huge stress for our body to get rid of it. So I want to touch on some gut health type stuff here. So alcohol consumption disrupts our digestion big time. Big time. Before I even explain why, I'm going to make the assumption that, at least half of you that are listening to this have had some tummy troubles the next day after drinking, right? It's not good. It doesn't feel good. Your digestion feels off. You're queasy. Maybe you have the runs. Maybe you're constipated. Your gut just we're not doing well, right? So why does alcohol actually disrupt our digestion? Because sometimes people attribute it to greasy foods we might be eating with the alcohol, but it is the alcohol itself, right? So drinking alcohol can actually completely kill the bacteria in your gut. Yet maintaining a healthy balance between the bad bacteria and the good bacteria is super essential for proper digestion and nutrient timing. We've talked about this before in multiple different caveats of gut health podcasts that we've done. So what happens is consuming alcohol kills the good bacteria, which can lead to an imbalance in bacteria, which can eventually lead to things like dysbiosis, SIBO, and other gut health type conditions. So this is something that I've seen in quite a few women. I talked to a couple of women who used to drink quite a bit or would have 1 glass of wine a day. And over time, their gut health just got worse and worse and worse. And we know that this also happens during perimenopause. We're more prone to inflammation. Our stress response isn't as good. We have a slowing of digestion. And then you're pairing it with this consistent alcohol intake. And it doesn't have to be a lot. A lot of people think, oh, I don't drink that much. We're talking about 3 drinks a week. Okay, so that's not very much. So if you're having just one every few days, or maybe you're having quite a few on the weekend, this happens because we're a lot more sensitive to these things as we go through these perimenopausal changes, and our hormones change, our stress tolerance changes, all those kinds of things, right? So when alcohol is in our system, the body does not uptake as many nutrients from our food that we consume, because it's killed off that good bacteria. And this is because the alcohol really damages the lining of our intestines. So it can be long lasting, can lead to leaky gut, which we already know we're prone to during perimenopause and menopause, can increase the symptoms of dysbiosis, lead to more inflammation. And this is something that we can talk about forever, but we know more inflammation in your body means more gut health issues, higher instance of developing prediabetes or diabetes. We're seeing our stress levels increase a lot more. Hormone production goes down. We're seeing reabsorption of toxins in our body because we're not eliminating the way that we're supposed to. We can't absorb the nutrients like we need. So you might be supplementing with a bunch of supplements and then your levels still aren't that great. This is why. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, alcohol is a toxin and it places a great load of stress on our liver. Our liver has to work very hard. And we know that during perimenopause and menopause, if our stress levels get high, it's very easy for cortisol to go up, we are going to see that your liver already starts to suffer a little bit. So if we're adding alcohol on top of that, it does make it very challenging on your body. It's a lot of stress. And then your liver and your gut are quite literally connected by very thin tubes called bile ducts. And your gut is connected to your brain, one of the biggest nerves in our body, right? The vagus nerve. This is very important to understand. And that's going to send signals in both directions, from our gut to our brain to our gut, and everywhere else in our body. So having that toxic load on our liver is a direct toxic load on your brain as well, which can lead to like more spontaneous type of decision making and things like that, which are not always the best, right? So we need to be aware that that is an issue that we see, and it kind of makes some of the symptoms that we experience during perimenopause and menopause worse. So just something to be aware of. So now that you learned a little bit about gut health and alcohol, I want to talk about food and alcohol. Okay, so who here has avoided eating before a day or night out of drinking with friends because you didn't want to look bloated, right, in your outfit, or you were trying to save your calories for later? I remember being in like university, and like girls would say they would not eat all day because they didn't want to look bloated in their outfits before they went out or for events and things like this. And it sucks, right? We've been there. We've done that. Let's just not do that again. Okay, we're not going to not eat before. We're not going to be fasting before to save our calories or avoid looking bloated. And here's why. Eating a meal before drinking as the food in your stomach is really good because it will help slow the absorption of alcohol, which slows how fast alcohol goes into your bloodstream and into your small intestine where it gets absorbed. So we are slowing down how much alcohol gets in, which is good. So eating a meal beforehand and eating regular snacks while drinking can help slow down that absorption of alcohol into your body, preventing you from getting super hammered, okay? And also, it allows your body to have somewhat of an easier time processing the alcohol. Because remember, we don't want to overload our system. The liver can really only break down one standard drink per hour. So if we're slowing how much alcohol is entering into the bloodstream and into the body, that's going to help take some load off of your liver, which is good. Okay, so eating before and eating during drinking is a good thing. And this is, again, not to say that let's say eating food will prevent you from getting drunk if you're drinking like 2, 3, 4 drinks an hour, right? Or you've been drinking for multiple hours. But if you eat a meal and then have a couple of drinks, you have a potentially way lower risk of being like drunk and having less load on your liver than if you had gone on an empty stomach. And also important to know, eating before does not make you prone to the effects of alcohol as a whole. It just helps avoid some of the damage that can be done. So it's not saying that eating is going to like, oh, it's fine. If I eat, then I can drink however much I want. No, like these things will still happen. It just takes off as much pressure as it would if you had gone drinking on an empty stomach. And then sleep is a big one, you guys. Sleep is probably one of the biggest complaints that we get from women during perimenopause and menopause. It is something a lot of women struggle with, right? Falling asleep is tough. Staying asleep is tough. You wake up, you don't really feel well rested. We start having hot flashes and night sweats at nighttime. And there are major effects on sleep quality from the consumption of alcohol. And this is something a lot of women notice, that it's like, man, like, I haven't been drinking for a bit and then I had wine and like I had the worst sleep ever, or I started having hot flashes, or I woke up feeling really tired and bloated. So it's wild how much alcohol can impact your sleep quality. So I'm going to break this down a bit. So I know some of us feel like sometimes we just need to drink at the end of the day in order to like wind down and help us fall asleep. Or like maybe you might feel like you have slept really hard after drinking, but then you wake up really exhausted. So we have this idea that like alcohol helps us fall asleep, but it's actually a really poor quality sleep. So this is because your body cannot actually get its proper sleep. Okay, you can't get into proper sleep cycles when you are drinking alcohol. You do not go into deep or REM sleep cycles when you have alcohol in your system. So that feeling of a hard sleep is not actually a deep and restorative sleep, which is why you don't feel well rested. This is already something that we struggle with in perimenopause and menopause. Agree? Yes. So therefore, do not go through the required processes or clearing out other toxins in your body, which is what sleep is for. So you can't rejuvenate your cells, and it doesn't actually allow your body to actually rest if you're consuming alcohol, because your body's working hard to first get rid of that alcohol before it can tackle anything else in your body. And deep sleep is when our body really detoxes itself. It is the only time your brain can actually detox itself, the brain. So if you have a nightcap daily, you are never allowing your brain to actually detoxify itself and restore and rebuild healthy cells. And this is really important. And we know that we struggle with brain fog, irritability, mood, different cognitive things going on during perimenopause and menopause. And if we're never getting that deep sleep, we're never allowing our body to get rid of those old cells and really detox itself. Deep and REM sleep are necessary for lowering your cortisol levels, as if I wasn't going to talk about cortisol on the podcast, right? And this is also when our body is able to produce growth hormone, is during those deep and REM cycles in our sleep. So when we're going through perimenopause and menopause, we know that we have such a hard time keeping our cortisol in check. When cortisol is not in check, we see our hormone production go down, our blood sugars get wild, thyroid function slows down, our metabolism slows down, we have a harder time building and maintaining muscle mass, or we see muscle loss, our gut health takes a hit, our liver takes a hit. And then if we aren't getting this deep and REM sleep for multiple reasons, alcohol being one of them, our body has a way worse time putting on muscle mass. And because that's when growth hormone's produced. And if cortisol is high when we're not getting those deep sleeps, we have a really hard time building up our muscle mass. Okay. And this is because estrogen is low, cortisol is high, and then not getting enough sleep really just makes all of this worse, really increasing the muscle breakdown signal instead of the muscle building signal. So then what happens is our body ends up breaking down muscle for energy, and we want to preserve that very precious muscle as much as we can for so many reasons, improving our independence and mobility, looking fit and strong. It helps improve our blood sugar control. There's so many benefits that show that people who are under-muscled have worse surgical outcomes, longer hospital stays. And we know muscle is so hard to put on during perimenopause and menopause and to maintain. They really don't want to do things to counteract that because it takes so long to get there, right? So we need to make sure that we are getting enough sleep, and that alcohol consumption can really, really throw that for a loop. So it is essential to get enough sleep and recovery, especially if you're someone who works out. Without good quality sleep, we are not going to produce enough growth hormone to repair muscle. So then you get that skinny fat look where you're a smaller version of yourself, but you don't feel like you look fit and toned. You're just a small chubby version of yourself. You don't look the way you thought you were going to look when you lost weight, right? Then we see our metabolism starts to slow down because if we lose muscle mass, our bodies get worse at burning calories. We see our gym performance is going to start decreasing. We see that your insulin resistance goes up, so blood sugar gets worse, which already happens when our estrogen levels go down. Plus, you're going to see that increase in cortisol, which is going to be a double whammy where our body wants to break down muscle, take it to our liver, turn it into sugar for our body to use for energy. Then we're going to see this cycle just keeps going and going and going where you're doing things to try and build muscle mass, but the alcohol, the poor sleep quality, and the high stress response and the inflammation is all going to cause the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. So the sleep effects are going to carry into so many things, your energy throughout the day, your ability to focus, your motivation, your drive. You're going to see that with alcohol, and if you're not getting good sleep, our cravings get way more intense. And then if our blood sugars are starting to get out of whack because of this as well, and because of perimenopause and menopause, it's just going to get worse. And of course, it's going to be harder to stay on track if you're dealing with energy crashes and you're dealing with the cravings. It really doesn't set you up for successful fat loss, right? And when you stop drinking, you'll feel physically, emotionally, and mentally so much better and more capable. This isn't me telling you that you can't drink. I want to show you all the things that alcohol affects in your body so you can really understand is this the thing that's holding you back, right? So now I want to shift into hormones, because what is a podcast on menopause without hormones, right? So first up, alcohol consumption affects testosterone levels in our body directly. Okay, testosterone plays a huge role. We see women with low testosterone all of the time. Okay, so testosterone plays a very, very key role in being able to build muscle and keeping our metabolism up nice and high, being able to burn fat. And testosterone decreases when we are drinking alcohol. Lower testosterone means we can't build muscle. It's harder to burn fat, and also affects our blood sugars directly. So we see that when we have low testosterone, we have a harder time managing our blood sugar control as well. So again, not setting you up for success. And not only is testosterone decreased with alcohol consumption, it can actually get converted to estrogen, which throws the whole hormone balance out of whack. And then you can still have low estrogen levels, but because of this conversion, you can have too much estrogen compared to testosterone, too much estrogen compared to progesterone, even though overall levels are low, leading to estrogen dominant type symptoms, which can then cause further fat gain, further negative impact on your metabolism, things like that. Plus the hot flashes, right? And estrogen dominance that we see is caused by increased stress, which we all know we're doing when we're under eating, over exercising, cutting out our carbs, drinking alcohol, having caffeine on an empty stomach, fasting, being go, 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 dealing with deadlines and finances and grief and trauma and family stuff, right? Like we are in so much stress that we are at risk of developing estrogen dominance already, even if levels are low. We know that if you're on medications like birth control, that increases your risk of estrogen dominance. Same with alcohol consumption, liver and detox issues, exposure to xenoestrogens, so like BPAs and phthalates. And we know that alcohol is going to take a big toll on your liver and detox pathway, which is not good because that does make you more predisposed to develop estrogen dominance. So some symptoms of high estrogen or estrogen dominance that you might be experiencing can be more sugar cravings, belly fat accumulation, bloating, swelling and tender breasts, decreased sex drive, more intense PMS type symptoms, headaches, moodiness, weight gain, weight loss resistance, issues with our memory and concentration. We start experiencing anxiety, hot flashes and night sweats. So you can see how like alcohol can actually really impact our hormones, making it more challenging for you to feel like yourself and be able to achieve the goals that you are looking for. But sometimes like you're drinking to try and like make yourself feel better when realistically, like think of all the things that are a side effect of alcohol that are making you feel worse, including the brain fog and the concentration issues and the anxiety and things like that, right? The next hormone that I want to talk about is serotonin and dopamine. These are your happy hormones, and alcohol is going to affect your overall mood. So the more often that you drink, the more your brain's neural circuits get rewired and reinforced. It reinforces certain pathways in your brain. So what does this mean? It's going to make you more naturally impulsive and habitual because those are the areas of the brain that get reinforced when you drink, but it carries over to when you're not drinking. So this means that like you do things without thinking as much. So you become more reactive and impulsive on a regular basis. So this can be reversed with 2 to 6 months of limiting or removing alcohol, but the more that you drink, the longer this is going to take for you to be able to reverse, right? So it's also we also find that with alcohol, like your mood decreases when you're not drinking because your body isn't producing as much serotonin and dopamine. And those are your happy hormones. So you might feel like good when you're drinking, and then when you're not drinking, you're not feeling so great. And that's why. Okay. Cortisol, I want to touch on a little bit again here quickly for you is so we have this wonderful thing called the HPA axis. It is our stress response system and basically how our body perceives stress and how it reacts to it, which honestly, we're pretty much perceiving everything as stress these days because life is freaking stressful. Let's be honest. And we all know how terrible that can be. Right? And then it's already going to be elevated during perimenopause and menopause, and that is going to contribute to belly fat. But having just as little as 3 to 4 drinks a week will increase your resting levels of cortisol, even when you are not drinking. Okay? And this means you are less resilient to stressors, which means, you're more reactive. You can't handle stress as well. And we know that when estrogen goes down, we already go from being able to handle a 9 out of 10 before we start seeing the negative impacts of stress, like our low hormone production, our blood sugar control getting worse, our metabolism slowing down because our thyroid function slows down, increased risk of developing hypothyroidism, our gut health getting worse, more bloating, our liver struggling, muscle loss, inability to like put on muscle, low energy. All of those things get worse when estrogen goes down, because before we could handle a 9 out of 10 before we would see that stuff kind of happen. Now it can only be a 5 out of 10. And then if you are having alcohol, just 3 to 4 standard drinks a week, we see that your resting levels of cortisol are higher. So then you're always functioning at like a level 3 already. So you don't have much room to add additional stress before we start seeing all those negative side effects from cortisol. So we know this is going to just make things a lot more challenging for you, especially if you have a very stressful go life where you're taking care of other people, and especially for the working women out there with deadlines and trying to manage everything at the same time. It's a lot. And it's just going to make all that belly fat worse, and it's going to be a lot more challenging of a journey for you. So we're going to see things like fluid retention and more belly fat, insulin resistance, all those things. And eventually we get to a point where we can start having adrenal type issues, which we really want to avoid at all costs, because we know that's going to make you feel like garbage, right? But also you're not going to be able to show up as the best version of yourself and reach those health and fitness goals, right? And okay, I'm going to stop there, because if I continue going, we're going to be here forever. If you want to learn more about cortisol, please go back to the past podcasts on cortisol. And I do know that there's many of you who do enjoy having an alcoholic beverage from time to time. So I want to mention a few of the lower calorie options that are there and available for you to use. So plain vodka mixed with tonic or seltzer water is an option. Just taking a shot, like tequila and lime. I know Hannah loves that. I cannot. Tequila and I are not friends. You can have like whiskey on the rocks, or you can have gin and tonic water. You can have some seltzers. Make sure you're mixing water in between your drinks. Or you can have like non-alcoholic drinks, right? You can have some mocktails. You can have athletic brewing company beers, regular seltzer waters. Like there are some other options as well that are a lot better for you, that have a lower alcohol content, but make sure that you're eating right, making sure you're staying hydrated. These are all things that are going to help your body function and take some of that stress off the body, but you need to still realize that alcohol is a stress on our body, and it makes your body work really hard. So I want you to be able to use this information to make informed decisions. This is not me telling you what to do, how to do it. It's me giving you advice. It's me giving you the information for you to be able to really navigate. What do you want to do next? Are the downfalls like worth it for you to continue drinking, or is it that enough for you where you're like, oh, I really care about my health and I really care about reaching these goals, that I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to do it as often? It'll just help you navigate situations when alcohol is available. Because like, I don't care what choices you make. Those are completely up to you. My role here is just to give you the information so that you can make the best decision for you based on the information that you have. Okay, so don't be afraid to say no to alcohol. My friends already know that 90% of the time I'm going to say no. It's not my thing, right? And at first people were kind of weirded out about it, and now they're just like, oh, Steph just like doesn't really drink. Because for me, it's like, I don't like how it makes me feel. I feel very bloated the next day. I will have the tendency to snack more, and for me, it's like I'd rather have a piece of cake than have an alcoholic beverage. Because like I said, I would rather have a sangria or things like that are more calorie dense. So it's like, I'd rather have a dessert than have a drink. But that's just me. And don't be afraid to be the leader. You never know who is going to be like, oh, if she says no, I can say no. Right? So just stick to water or even a soda for the night. Like I actually used to, like at house parties and stuff, just say I was drinking like a vodka soda when it was just, a soda with like lime juice in it. Like, don't be afraid to navigate it that way, or like drink out of like a Yeti or a coffee mug or whatever that people, like those travel containers that people won't know what you're drinking anyways. Right? So who cares? And if they're going to give you a hard time what I like to say is like, I am choosing to reduce my alcohol intake because I'm really trying to take care of my hormones. Because typically if you say it has to do with weight loss, people will roll their eyes and be annoyed, which like to me, I think is just ridiculous. They should respect your decision either way. But if you explain to them, I'm really struggling with my hormones, so I'm limiting alcohol to allow my hormones to like, get to a better place, they'll be a little bit more accepting of that. So that's always like something that you can talk to them about too, or just give that as your reason. That helps, right? I mean, they never gave you a hard time for not drinking when you were pregnant. So why should they give you a hard time for not drinking now, right? You can do it. And then just assess the pros and cons of what the drinks are, or the drinks, what they'll do for you, right? So sometimes being social and having a drink or a few with your friends is the right decision to make. It connects you or whatever, right? But you don't have to do that. You can still connect with people and not drink. So you just have to figure out what's best for you, how you're going to navigate it. Now you have the information as to like how it affects your hormones, right? And your ability to be able to lose weight, how it affects your sleep, your ability for your brain to detox. There's so many things that it influences. So I hope this was helpful. Enjoy those summer patio days. But I mean, you can also just have like version drinks, right? Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can still go for the appetizers. You can still go to the patio. You can still go camping. So I hope this was helpful. Share it with all your friends, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.